Does evil exist? Check this out. This is tagged on to our last video that's talking about, is there a God? So if you haven't watch that one as well. But this is the question, does evil exist? And this is a story that some attribute to Einstein. Some say it wasn't him. It really doesn't matter, because the point of this story is so awesome and powerful. So let's take a look at this. This is how it reads. The university professor challenged his students with a question. Did God create everything that exists? A student bravely replied, yes, he did. God created everything? The professor asked. Yes, sir, the student replied. The professor answered, if God created everything, then God created evil, since evil exists. And according to the principle that our works define who we are, then God is evil. The student became quiet before such an answer. The professor was quite pleased with himself and boasted to the students that he had proven once again that Christianity, or the Christian faith, was a myth. Another student raised his hand and said, can I ask the professor a question? Of course, replied the professor. The student stood up and asked, Professor, does cold exist? What kind of a question is this? Of course it exists. Have you never been cold? The students all snickered at the young man's question. The young man replied, in fact, sir, cold does not exist. According to the laws of physics, that we consider cold is in reality the absence of heat. Every body or object is susceptible to study when it has or transmits energy. And heat is what makes a body or matter have or transmit energy. Absolute zero, or negative 460 degrees Fahrenheit, is the total absence of heat. All matter becomes inert and incapable of reaction at that temperature. Cold does not exist. We have created this word to describe how we feel if we have no heat. The student continued, Professor, does darkness exist? The professor responded, of course it does. The student replied, once again, sir, you are wrong. Darkness does not exist either. Darkness is, in reality, the absence of light. Light we can study, but not darkness. In fact, we use Newton's prism to break light into the many colors and the various wavelengths of each color. You can measure these, but you cannot measure darkness. A simple ray can be broken into a world of darkness. A simple ray of light can break into a world of darkness and illuminate it. How can we know how dark a certain object is? You measure the amount of light that is present. Darkness is a term used by man to describe what happens when there is no light. Finally, the young man asked the professor, Sir, does evil exist? Now uncertain, the professor responded, Of course. As I have already said, we see it every day. It is in the daily example of man's inhumanity to man. It is in a multitude of crime and violence everywhere in the world. These manifestations are nothing else but evil. To this, the student replied, Evil does not exist, sir. Or at least, it does not exist unto itself. Evil is simply the absence of God. It is just like darkness and cold, a word that man has created to describe the absence of God. God did not create evil. Evil is not like faith or love that exists just as light and heat do. Evil is the result of what happens when man does not have God's love or presence in his heart. It's like the cold that comes when there is no heat, or the darkness that comes when there is no light. The professor sat down. Does evil exist? Evil actually shows us that there is a good God. Without evil, we wouldn't see what good was. So evil shows us that, wow, God's goodness is so amazing because of how he has reached down to you and to me, sinful people. He's reached down to us to actually die in our place. We'll have to get into that in a later video. I sure love you guys.